solve a multi-step word problem. And explain my thinking. Now, yesterday, we took a look at word problems that only had one step in them. Before that, we were really making sure we know how to add and subtract, so that part we have pretty much down. Now we're going to take a look at some pretty complex problems. And before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to the sentence frames we're going to be looking at for today, because in order to keep all of our information organized and to explain our thinking, like in our target, we're going to have to practice talking about what our steps are and why we're doing those things. So if you would please look over this way, and I'm actually going to start from the bottom sentence frame in purple. Can I have everyone looking this way at our purple sentence frame? And wait till I see all eyes. This way. Thank you. Okay. I will blank. And we'll fill that in, right? That's not, we're not just going to say blank. Because blank. Now, that is a relatively simple sentence, but for some people that's just a start that you might need to start explaining why you might add, why you might subtract, or do something else in your problem. Okay? Now, we're going to try and kind of step it up a little bit, make this a little bit more complex. Take a look at the blue sentence. Please repeat after me. Since the problem says blank. And what do you think goes in that blank spot? What do you think we might put there, Ashley? Maybe a number? Okay, what else might we put in that spot, Sagat?
Since the problem says to subtract.
Would it tell you just to subtract in the problem, or would it maybe give you other clues?
Subtract the number or
So the problem might say, I have 7 apples and I subtracted 4? Or would it maybe say something a little bit different than that? Can you give an example of what you might hear in the word problem?
Someone had like 5 oranges and they subtracted 2.
And they subtracted 3. Alright, so you might say the word subtracted, or you could see some other words. We talked about some good words yesterday. Other ideas, or actually, Sagat, why don't you take a peek at our chart from yesterday? What kinds of words might we see that mean subtraction? How many fewer? We might see that kind of word. So the problem probably won't say subtract. It usually use words maybe like this. Alright, let's take a look at the next part. So let's try that first piece. Since the problem says blank, I need to blank. Okay, so then you might put subtract in that second blank right there. Okay? Now, we're going to skip the second part of that frame for now. Taking a look at the green sentence, really stepping it up. Now, this green sentence is what I would expect from my students who are in my ELD class or in one of the ALD classes. This is a proficient response to explain your thinking for these word problems if you're at those levels. So let's practice this one all together. In order to solve the problem, I need to blank, since blank, and it says blank. Now we're not just going to leave this for you to try to fill in the blanks on your own. I'm going to do one as an example before we get started on our activity for today. So please turn on your bums towards our... This one should look familiar, and that's okay, because we're using it for a new purpose today to just get us started off. Now, the expectation today is at the end you have an exit slip, and you need to tell me why you used addition, subtraction, whatever you needed. So, to practice, we're going to use this one. Can I please have someone read that question just to get us started on that? Let's see, Leandro, why don't you read that for us?
Kristen and her friends are raising money for charity. They hope to raise $950 to reach their goal. So far, they have $7.80.
Do you see a decimal in here?
$780. How much more do they need to put in order to reach their goals?
Alright, now, we're not going to necessarily solve that whole problem because you worked on that one yesterday, but can someone point out to me what words give us a clue about what operation we might need to use to solve it? Jaylee? You see that word, how much more? That phrase, how much more? Now, this is the part we're going to use a sentence frame, and I'll give the example. So over here on our frame, turn this way again. Sorry, it's a little bit spread out. Okay. Do not repeat after me just yet. I'm looking at this and it says, in order to solve the problem, I need to blank. Now, it says how much more, so what operation will I probably be using? What operation will I probably be using? Beverly? I could use addition. Can I only use addition, or is there another way also? That one I could use both. Okay? So for this example, I'm just going to say I'll use subtraction. I think for me personally, that fits. So I'm going to use subtraction since I know the whole amount. You guys found that yesterday. And I know a part. I am also missing a part. And it says how much more. So let's put that together. I know it was a lot. Eyes this way. Mustaches on. Okay. Listening carefully because this will be on your exit ticket. Okay. We'll practice this now. In order to solve the problem, I need to subtract. Since I know the whole, I know one part. And it says how much more. Okay, give me 1 through 5. How comfortable do you feel with that frame? 1 through 5, how comfortable do you feel with that sentence frame? If you had a word problem and I asked you what you need to do, would you be able to use that to help explain? Okay, we'll try one other sentence frame down here for those of you who need a little bit more support. Mustaches on. I will subtract. Because it says how much more. A little bit simpler. For those of you who are in my ELD class or in ALD though, you need to be using this one. Bringing that writing level up, okay? Alright, this morning, eyes up here, listening very, very carefully. You are going to be working in groups. Before I tell you what your groups are, I want to explain what you need to do as we transition. Okay? When I say go and you have your groups, I need you to go get your math journal, a pencil, and then go to whichever table I tell you you're working at. Someone repeat back to me, how is that transition going? Because we got to work on those transitions. What are we doing during that transition? Well, that was our number talk. Taking a look at our target. What's different about today? We're going to be using multiple steps. Now, in your groups, you will have different problems. It'll be a little bit different. Most of them are all of them are very similar to this problem that I'm going to show you now, just to introduce our problem. Can I please have a volunteer who will read that problem for us, Jaylee? Nice and loud, because this makes a lot of noise.
Emily is saving to buy a desk and a chair for her room. The desk costs $69.50 and the chair costs $2.89. How much do the desk and the chair cost altogether? Emily has saved $9.40. So far, how much more does she need to save?
Alright, fantastic. So, we have two parts in our problem. And the reason I'm having you take a look at this all together is because this is why our sentence frames over here have a second part to them. Okay? So the first piece we practiced, you'll take a look at the first half of the problem, explain how you know what to do. The second piece of the sentence frame, you'll take a look at that next half of the problem and also explain that step. That's 2 steps you need to explain. Any questions on that so far? Okay, I'm coming around to groups, passing out your problem. I'm going to put on a timer for 5 minutes. Work independently and silently. Why don't you take a look at our chart over on the board? We have 2 charts. Do you see any words on our chart and our problem? You not see any words? Let's look through the words together. Let's start with the one over there. Do you see how much change? I don't think you see that one on there. How about how many more? You see that? How about left? So ask us how much is left. I don't see that either. Let's let me try the other chart. Do you see the word combined on both? Where? How about altogether? You see the word altogether anywhere in your problem? No, we do have that one. So let's make sure that one makes sense before we just say it's addition. So, will you read this with me? Emily is saving to buy a desk and chair for her. The desk costs $9. Good.
The chair costs $2.80. How much do the desk and the chair cost altogether?
So what's it asking us?
How much do the desk and the chair cost altogether?
So what do you think we need to do to find out how much they cost altogether? Do you think you'll need to add or subtract? I think subtract. We saw that word altogether here, right? What chart did that go on? This one here? What operation is that chart all about? Looking at addition for that all together. So now looking at the cost of the desk and the chair put together. Can you do that with me? All together? All together. Okay? So what we're going to do is put those numbers together. So we're going to do subtract. So let me see what you guys did for solving your problem first, and then we can take a look at that sentence. What was the first step of the problem?
I first added the one that it says I have
Okay. So then you found your answer. And then how did you solve the second part of the problem? Where it's
Because I used the sentence right here, and I put to solve it.
so you added those? What operation did you use? Let's see in addition. You added something. Added. So let's take a look at the problem.
This is how much more.
How much more? Let's maybe take a look at our charts here. Do you see how much more? So how many more? That's kind of like finding the difference, right? If she has $9.40 and she needs the number you found here, right? She needs $122.39 and she has $9.40. Does she have to keep getting more and more money? Just saving forever and ever and ever and ever? Or will she eventually get her goal? She's eventually going to get her goal. She's already started on her goal. Where's it looking? She's already started reaching towards her goal.
How much money does she need?
So the question asks, how much does she need to save still? How much is left that she needs to pull together? So when you see how much more, think how much is left before she reaches that goal. So what do you think about this problem now? How do you think is the best way to solve it?
I don't know.
She's going to save $82. Why? Why do you think so?
It's still efficient because the bonus is
If it was addition, what would the problem look like?
we start with 2,040. Okay, fine. We start adding it to get to R.
So you could add up to there. So you could add, but you have, remember, this is a whole or a part? That's the whole amount. That's all the money she needs. So that's the whole amount. So you can add up, but you don't want to add to that whole. You don't want to make the goal bigger than it needs to be, right? Why don't you guys take a look at that?
Skittles, but